Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway and welcome to another review. Up today it's an American tank engine. I was persuaded to buy today's tank engine by my engineers, so thank you very much engineers for that. And incidentally, if this all goes wrong, it is totally your fault about this one. I'm looking at you, William. But no, this is an American tank engine. I didn't buy it from a British retailer. I actually sent off to America for this one. I bought it from Train World, so if any American viewers recognise that name, that's pretty cool. Let me show you what the loco is then. It is this. It is a Bachmann locomotive, of course. I'm not entirely sure what to call this one. I guess I'll call it a Porter 060 side tank or something. Anyway, the main reason why I bought this, it is the main reason why it's here in my hand and not still in a shop over in America, is the price. Oh, it's a fascinating one, this. So the RRP for this locomotive is $145, which converts to £104 if you want it in pounds. I bought this from Train World for $49.99, which converts to £36. What an insane discount that is. And assuming, of course, that neither Bachmann nor Train World sold this at a loss, that just shows how insane some of the markups of these model trains are, doesn't it? Maybe that's an unfair assumption to make, though. Maybe they did sell at a loss, I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, £36 for this. This is a DCC fitted locomotive, and think of that. Over here in the UK, it costs between £15 and £20 to get a basic decoder for your locomotives. Does that mean that this loco on its own, without the DCC chip, is worth £15 to £20? It's crazy. I'm really interested to see what this one's going to be like. How on earth do I even decide what my expectations are? I mean, for £104, this should be pretty decent. I should treat it as a relatively premium locomotive. But for £36, I would expect this to be a toy. So what am I expecting here? I have no idea, but hopefully we will find out together. Let's get this out and see what it's like. So the fact that I have absolutely no idea what to expect with this makes this one quite exciting. I mean, I've had Bachmann locomotives from the States before, so I know kind of what to expect, but they were never as cheap as this, and they weren't even brand new. This is brand new, so many questions about this. I suppose the big one, is there a reason why these are being sold so cheap? Maybe that's something I should be concerned about, but ultimately I do not know. I've not had this out yet, so this is going to be a real journey, I think. Let me show you the end of the box then. This is the version I have, so it's item number 52103. It is HO scale, it's an 060 side tank, DCC, I can't believe this was DCC fitted for £36. Midwest Quarry and Minimig Company, number 12. What the devil is Minimig? Always a bad sign, I think, when manufacturers can't spell simple words. Hopefully that is not a bad omen of what's to come. And I have seen photos of other versions of what looks like the same model, but with different sort of print work on the sides. So, yep, there's quite a lot to choose from if you really want to get one of these. Let me show you the end of the box here, because you can see some of the features. So it says main track programming. I'm not sure what that means. Does that mean you can program the decoder while it's on your main track or something? I don't know. That's been the case with every other loco I've seen. 28-step speed control. That's because it's obviously digital. It's not analog, so there has to be a set number of steps. Supposedly it will work on all compliant DCC systems, all-wheel drive, diesel models. Okay, I guess this is more generic than I thought. CAN motor, it has got a die-cast chassis, Easy Mate Mark II couplers. Never heard that term before, Easy Mate. That's a strange one, isn't it? And it also says that these are compatible with conventional DC-powered layouts, which means I guess I could just use this on my regular analog controllers, but I'm not going to do that because I think it would probably work better on DCC. Okay, shall we do it then? Shall we find out what this thing is like? I'm really interested to know. Is it going to be a good quality loco? Is it just going to be a glorified toy? I have no idea. Through the front of the box, it didn't look too bad. I mean, it was difficult to get a good idea of exactly what the thing was like, but yeah, from the outside, it looks all right. Okay. Huge amount of paperwork here, an insane amount. This one says important notice. Let's find out what this one says. In accordance with strict international electric emission regulations, Bachmann locomotives are equipped with blah, 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 blah. I don't think that's going to interest us, is it? So we'll put that one to one side. What was all this here? I think this is going to be about the warranty and stuff, so I probably won't even show you that. Don't know what this is. Something about a 366 page catalogue. No, can't say I'd have time for that. And here we have probably what is going to interest us the most. Okay, so I've picked up the exploded diagram. Wow, I tell you what, if this is a glorified toy, it sure is quite a complicated one, isn't it? Now, can we see the mechanism anywhere there? I can see the odd gear and some of the coupling rods and the wheels and such. I can't even see the motor on there, can you? Oh yeah, oh, there's a little cordless motor. That's interesting. I didn't notice that to start with. So they run on cordless motors, interesting. Well, I've heard that cordless motors run extremely well on DCC, so I guess this will be the chance to prove that. On the back, there you go, a little bit of information. Looks like it's on DCC operation there, so feel free to read that if you like. Man, someone has gone to some trouble to produce all this paperwork for such a basic little loco, and that one's just about the warranty, so not too much to see there. Right, man, if I was going to read all of that, it would literally take me all day, wouldn't it, before I could even get onto the loco. But now, let's do the unthinkable. We're going to ignore the instructions. Let's get this out and finally satisfy my curiosity as to what we are dealing with here. Right, so we've got a bit of plastic over the top of the cab. Let's pull that off. Ugh, that's kind of gross. It's like the skin of a blister, almost. Ugh. Right, and here is the locomotive. All right, and you know what? Yeah, this thing looks all right. It doesn't feel dreadfully heavy, but then again, it's not a huge locomotive, is it? I can tell straight away that the cylinders are die-cast because they're cold metal to the touch, and we've already seen on the box that the chassis is die-cast, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, there seems to be a fair bit of detail on here. A lot of it looks like it's made of plastic, and in some areas it is quite clear that this is quite a basic locomotive. For over £100, I'm not sure how I would feel about that, but for £36 with a DCC decoder, even though the Bachmann decoders aren't the best, are they? I feel very, very good about this one, actually. I reckon, on value at least, this is going to get a really, really good mark. Okay, so I haven't been able to find an awful lot about this exact locomotive. I don't really know, truly, whether it was designed to look like any specific real locomotive, but I will tell you what I was able to find out. So we'll do that, and then we'll take a close look at this up on the white backdrop. H.K. Porter Incorporated were an American manufacturer of light-duty steam locomotives founded way back in 1886. The company was extremely prolific and it produced nearly 8,000 locomotives over its 64 years in operation. Now, Bachmann doesn't give a prototype on which this locomotive was based, but apparently it resembles an offering in the Porter catalogue from 1892, but this model seems to depict the design in later years as it has a few modern features such as the electric lamp. Porter produced their last locomotive in 1950, after which that part of the business was sold to the Davenport Locomotive Works in Iowa. So there we go, that's a little bit on the Porter company and a little tiny bit on this locomotive. Let's now take a closer look and find out whether this loco is any good or not. Alright, so there it is, and do you know what? I think this is alright. It's very, very simple, and I certainly wouldn't recommend paying anything close to the RRP, but for what I paid, I'm actually reasonably impressed with this thing. So it is very simple. As you can see, a lot of the pipework and such is just a part of the moulding. In fact, there's quite a lot of moulded detail on here. But there's also quite a lot in the way of separately fitted stuff as well. You've got the metal handrails, which look really quite nice and fine. Same on the smoke box. And look at the smoke box. You've got the separately fitted running number on there and such. That's all fine. The decoration is, again, very, very simple, but what decoration there is done very, very nicely. So you've got the white stripe at the bottom of the tanks and at the bottom of the cab. It's really, really nicely applied. No paint bleed or anything like that. Obviously, we don't have any separately fitted name or company plates on this. I don't expect you would in real life, but again, they're nicely applied. You've got the builder's name on the side of the cylinders there. The cylinders is an area where the quality has suffered a little bit. Look underneath the cylinders. In the UK, we'd call those cylinder drain cocks. Whether or not that is the same on American locomotives, I don't know. But as you can see, that is broken. It was broken in the pack, and it is also kind of covered in glue, which suggests a fix has already been attempted. But really, that's the only quality issue I can spot on the locomotive. A lot of the separately fitted detailing is just made of plastic, so that goes for the bell, as you can see. It's nicely moulded, though. I mean, it's so much better than that Bachmann Prairie I looked at that time, where the moulding was just horrendous. And around the dome, you can see the separate brass fittings here. Again, they're just made of plastic, but they're nicely painted, which is okay, isn't it? Now, this locomotive does have a lamp on the front and the back. For £36, is this locomotive really going to have lights? Well, again, that's a difficult question, because for over £100, I would think maybe yes. For 36, I'm not sure, so I guess we'll have to find out. But yeah, we've got one on the front and on the back there. I guess when we get it down onto the track, we will see. Now look at the pilot area. The actual chassis around the pilot area is all made of metal, which is great. You've got the Easy Mate Mark II coupling, or whatever you want to call it. I don't believe those are fitted into NEM pockets. They are literally screwed onto the locomotive, which I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, here in the UK, you can literally just pull out the couplings and put in a different one if you'd like to. I guess you could still do that with this, but it's not as easy as just pulling one out and putting another in. Now you've got this thing here that moves. I've called this a handrail in the past. Apparently, according to you guys in the comments, this is not. Apparently this is some sort of mechanism that the crew would use to operate the couplings, which is really interesting. And then underneath there you've got some plastic separately fitted steps. I say they're plastic because a lot of the smaller plastic details, such as the steps under the cab as well, look, they're very, very thin and delicate. So even though the price is kind of toy-like, the model itself isn't really, so do bear that in mind. Look at the cab. We don't have any glazing or anything around the cab, although I guess that can be prototypical. Some American locos didn't seem to have it. Inside there is some cab detail, which again at this price point is okay, isn't it? It's not painted though or anything like that. You might be screaming, where is the coal? Because there's no coal in the coal bunker. Well, incorrect. Look at this. This is a feature I was really impressed with. If I pull off this cover, you can see there is coal underneath it. So that's a really nice kind of action feature, isn't it? I was really impressed when I saw that. Yeah, I mean, the attention to detail's not bad, is it? I mean, it's clearly not designed to be a premium model. And if I'd bought this from Broadway Limited Imports for $200 or something, obviously I'd expect an awful lot more. But to say this is Bachmann and to say how basic some of their models from the US have been in the past when I've paid a lot more for them, I'm reasonably impressed with this thing. Look around the back. Again there's quite a lot of separately fitted detail, a fair bit of decoration going on. I'm really not too disappointed with this at all. You've got the different colour smoke box, as you can see. And the side of the smoke box has got this, whatever that is, on the side. I won't even pretend to know what that is. But can you see what I mean? Yeah, for £36, DCC fitted, this thing looks really, really good, doesn't it? Quick look at the wheels. Again, you've got these cast wheels. The centres look a little bit messy, but at least the axles have been painted over. And you can see that even the lower chassis is nicely detailed. Yeah, I'm impressed, I'm impressed. I think for £104 this would be a little bit basic, but I don't think I'd be going crazy about how poor the value was, even if I had paid that. But yeah, given that these have now been sold for £36, I certainly wouldn't recommend paying over £100, just bear that in mind. Anyway, that is the level of detail for you. Yeah, it's really not too bad, is it? So next up, we will take a look at the mechanism. Well, I'll do the best I can, and then we'll get this down onto the track and find out how this thing performs. If the mechanism is good and it performs well, this could be one of the best value locomotives I've ever bought. Well, we'll have to find out. Let's do it. So there it is then, the Porter side tank down onto the track. Looks fantastic actually, doesn't it? The mechanism isn't the best, unfortunately. Yeah, it's not a very good mechanism. It has one or two nice features, but overall I would say I'm not hugely impressed by it. The weight, first of all, it's quite a light locomotive, unfortunately. It weighs 134 grams, which is only 5 grams more than the Hatton's Andrew Barclay tank, and that's just a tiny little 040. And it's even less than the DJM 1361 saddle tank, and that is a smaller tank engine again, and that is notoriously light. So the weight isn't fantastic. The good news is the loco looks like it's very back heavy because you've got the cab and everything. The centre of gravity though is right here on the centre driving wheel, which is exactly as it should be. So there is some evidence that some care has gone into the design, and the loco isn't going to be sort of tipping back like a buckaroo or something as it runs along with a load. So that is one thing that seems to be carefully designed. Another reasonably good thing is that the base keeper plate is not hardwired on, which means you can lift it off the chassis for easy access to the axles and stuff, and for cleaning the pickups. Unfortunately, there are no bearings on the wheel set, and I now have a complete zero tolerance policy for lack of proper bearings. With the cost of models these days, there is no excuse for it, so that is a pity. There is the chassis. I did manage to get the body off reasonably easily. It's a die-cast chassis, that's where most of the weight comes from. There is the decoder. It's all shrouded in a heat shrink tube, so we can't really see the components on it. It is clear though that the decoder is not fitted into a socket. It's actually hardwired to the circuit board, so if you actually wanted to change that decoder, you'd have to hardwire it as well. It's not as easy as just plugging in a different decoder, so that's a pity as well. The Loco does have lights though, look, I guess I'm spoiling the surprise, aren't I? There they are on the circuit board on the front and on the back. On the back you've got this sort of column that takes the light up to the lamp, which I thought was pretty clever. And there is the motor. As you can see, it is a very tiny coreless motor. It's not a big substantial one like we saw on the Bachmann 1P or the pannier tank. It is one of the tiny little unsubstantial ones like we saw on the BT well tank. No flywheel either, so it remains to be seen how well this will run. However, some coreless motors do run really, really well. I suppose it will depend on the quality of the decoder as well. The gauging is a little bit funny. I measured a back-to-back of 14.7mm, which is 0.3mm too tight by 00 gauge standards, although bear in mind this is an HO locomotive, so it kind of gets the benefit of the doubt there. Right, well, first thing I'm going to do then is I'm going to push the function button and see if we can get those lights to work. Do they? Oh yes, on the front and on the back, there you go. They've both come on, yeah, that's interesting, so they're obviously not directional, I suppose that's fair enough. Does the locomotive work? Let's find out. It's forwards at the moment, let's see. Turning it up. No, it's not working. Hello? Oh. Okay. Let's try it in reverse. Oh, okay, so I got something in reverse, but nothing in forwards. Oh no, it's happening now. Ugh, man, that frightened me. I thought the thing was literally going to be dead in the water there. Right, try again then, shall we? Let's try a crawl. It doesn't sound very happy, but I guess that's because it's on DCC. It is a slightly different sound. Crawl, any slower than that? No, that literally is the slowest speed step. So it seems as though the decoder is limiting the ability of this loco to crawl. I'm actually having to turn the controller quite a way up. In fact, it's really quite high now and nothing's happening again. Come on. Oh, maybe it had just stalled then. Yeah, maybe. Let's try that again. So I'm going to turn it up gently and we will see how slowly it can crawl. So that's about as slow as it can go. Actually, I mean, that is really quite slow, isn't it? It's not the best, and I do feel like if this didn't have a sort of reasonably poor quality decoder inside it, I feel like we could probably get that coreless motor to crawl even better. But at least the decoder limiting the crawl means that it is going to be smooth, and that is very, very smooth indeed, isn't it? Let's just try and ease it back down to 0 again. No, it just stops, doesn't it? Then I turn it up to about half speed. It's actually a good runner. I really do like the way that performs. It doesn't sound very good, but even having not been run in, that is beautifully smooth, isn't it? Really, really smooth. That's grand. I have noticed that the lights, there's something a bit strange going on with those. I do think the lights are supposed to be directional, because as you change direction, you can see the intensity changes. So does that mean that they are on the same circuit and the polarity is just reversed and they're using the reverse bias to try and keep the LEDs off when they're not in use? I don't know, that's weird though. Why would they be dim in one direction and bright in the other? Is that intentional? I have no idea. That's a weird one though. Anyway, I'm going to get this run in and we will see how it gets on around the layout. Wish it luck, off it goes, half speed. So I suppose I'm in two minds over this one really. I mean, for £36 the mechanism is adequate and the performance is insanely good, but equally for £104 the mechanism is poor and the performance is just adequate. So it is all in the price really. It all depends on how much or how little you can pick one of these up for. I think if you get it for a decent price, I would say, well, just to pick a figure out of midair, £60 or the equivalent in dollars, then yeah, it is a reasonable value purchase. If you're paying much more than that, then the poor quality of the mechanism becomes a bit of a problem, at least where I'm concerned. But no, so far this is looking really, really good. It's running without any problems whatsoever. I haven't seen it stalling on the points or anything, despite its reasonably small wheelbase. Yeah, for the money I paid, I am more than happy with this. So I will leave this to run in. It's going to have about 20 to 25 minutes in each direction since it's already running pretty well. Then after that's happened, we will test it again, obviously, and then we'll give it some wagons and see how it handles them. So I will see you in just a second. Okay folks, there we go, running in has concluded and I've gone a little bit too far. It's quite difficult to park these on DCC. Okay, so no major issues with the running in, it was nice and smooth constantly, no cutting out or anything like that. I did notice at the slower speeds it really was binding up a little bit over those second radius curves. It could be a number of things causing that. I mean, the gearing could be one. I do think the gearing is perhaps a little bit speedy for at 50% speed. Let me show you that. Let's get this going. Yeah, it goes a little bit quick, so it could be that. It could be the gauging, which I've already said is a little bit tight. It could be the decoder. I have had people tell me in the past that the Bachmann decoders are a little bit weak on the current output. It could be that as well, I'm not entirely sure, but torque doesn't seem to be a huge issue. I mean, if I put my hands in front of the loco and turn it up, you can see it still can turn its wheels, so it's not terrible or anything. It just slows down quite a bit under load. Speaking of underload, the loco isn't particularly powerful. It's not terrible or anything, but I measured 0.14 newtons of tractive effort, which is only enough for this thing to haul around 12 coaches, so it is a little bit on the weak side. Okay, let's see if that crawl is any better. I doubt it will be, actually, to be honest, but we will see. There we go. That is about as slow as this can go, and I think, again, that is down to the decoder. It's not a great decoder, is it? 28 speed steps. I'm not exactly sure how many typical decoder will have, but 28 doesn't seem many. I'm sure I've read about decoders having 128 speed steps. Maybe it's supposed to say 128, because 28 is a strange number, isn't it? If it was going to be 28, you'd expect it to be 32, wouldn't you? It's a bit strange that it's 28. But no, the slow speed is absolutely fine, as you can see, not a complaint with that at all. So I've set up a bit of a load. It is the sort of Norfolk and Western hoppers, which I know I run every time, and I know they're a little bit boring, but they do have the right couplings, so that's one of the few trains I can run. I do think this Porter side tank would be better with goods than it would passenger, so that's my decision on that. I will try and get some better rolling stock for my American locos at some point, but it's too late for this one, so let's go reverse and let's go couple. Here we go. There we are, it's having to come over the express point for this bit. Oh, I guess, well, it's never actually done that before, so that's really bad luck. Will the signature slap on the floor? Oh, no, ooh, no, it won't. I was gonna slap the floor in front of the camera, as so many people enjoy, but that was not necessary. Okay, there we go. I have also noticed that the bottom of the loco touches the little hump on the Hornby power tracks, so that's a nice little annoying treat for you if you are unlucky enough to run a Hornby power track. It's not really much of a problem though, it doesn't cause it to derail, it just causes it to wheel slip for a second if you're going super slow. Anyway, can it haul 6 hoppers? I should think so, yes. Let's try. Let's go for about 40 speed. There it goes. There we go, no problems with that then. And the theme of today's running session is going to be side tanks. So see if you can, well, see which other side tanks you can spot in the sidings and things. And there is going to be an odd one out. I'll tell you the ones that I've got running on the actual 2 other lines. So this is the USA dock tank, also from Bachmann. These run in the UK, although they were produced in the States. It's an American design. So here we go, stopped on the points. We still got the floor slap in there. Thank you, USA dock tank, for that. And then on the very inside line, another side tank. This is a Hornby one for a change. Same sort of price range, actually. Well, as far as the discount goes, it's not got the same RRP or anything. But it is the 3F, much, much simpler locomotive than the Bachmann, and it certainly didn't come with DCC or anything. So there it goes. Let's go and watch the side tank, the Porter one, around the layout, shall we, with its load. So there you have it. I mean, for what I paid, these are absolutely fine, aren't they? Not too bad at all. You should note, I mean, before you run out and buy one, that the mechanisms are reasonably poor, actually, at any cost, at any price whatsoever. Particularly given the RRP, the mechanism should have been better. The motors, though, do seem to be better than the typical sort of Bachmann 3-pole motors that we used to see. Those coreless motors do work better than that, and given that these are fitted with DCC, you don't see a lot of the downsides with coreless motors that you would if you were using an analog controller, for instance. So their use of a coreless motor in a locomotive that forces you to use DCC, because that decoder is hardwired, is a lot more reasonable than it is on DCC-ready locomotives. Because, of course, if your model railway is analog, you wouldn't actively buy a DCC locomotive, even though the box did say that this will run on DC layouts, but you've still got the decoder that will control the motor, I assume. So overall, yeah, not too many complaints. The level, everything's reasonably basic. the mechanism is probably unreasonably basic. It's a good runner, it does what it's supposed to, the couplings are all at the right heights. I don't have any sort of major problems with this at all, so if you're thinking about picking one up and if you found the right price, that is crucial. That's a crucial proviso, actually. Don't give anybody more than like $100 or anything, because that is just silly. But at the right price, sure, these are absolutely fine. I've seen much, much worse, and the quality is actually pretty decent. Let's have some ratings then for Bachmann's Porter 060 side tank from their USA range. The level of detail I've decided to give 3-star. Now don't get me wrong, some aspects of the detail were really quite impressive. I liked all the separately fitted handrails and such, and that sort of opening coal bunker was really nice as well. However, on the other hand, there's quite a lot in the way of just moulded details. Very simple decoration. What was there was nicely done, but there was certainly nothing in the way of painted cab detail or glazing in the windows or metal parts such as the bell or safety valves, whistles, that kind of thing. It was reasonably basic, I would say, from what I was used to. The performance, I've really struggled to give it a score on performance here. I think I've settled on 4-star. The slow speed isn't fantastic, but I do think that is largely due to the decoder. But at the end of the day, it's not that easy to change the decoder, so for most people, I would say you're stuck with it. It does tend to slow down a little bit on certain second radius curves, possibly as a result of the gauging. However, for the most part, the performance is really, really nice and smooth. And despite its slowest speed not being all that slow, it is incredibly smooth, so I think I will give it some credit for that. The pulling power is very average, I would say, for a loco of this size and weight. 12 coaches, that is less than the 040 Andrew Barclay, but it's the same as the Peckett, it's the same as the Electrotren Barricaldo, same as the 1361 class, so it's not unusually weak by any means. The mechanism, I think I've had to be quite harsh here, and deservedly so. I've given it just 2 stars. Lack of bearings on the wheel set, that's a really big one. No decoder socket on the inside, that's a bit cheap and nasty. Coreless motor does seem to run well, but there's no flywheel or anything like that. The decoder seems to have a very limited number of speed steps, just 28 step speed control. Well, that is pretty pants, isn't it? Some decoders can give you over 100, can't they? And it does show at the slow speeds. And the gauging was a bit questionable as well, although I haven't knocked any marks off for that because I don't know what the HO standard would actually be specifically. So if you do know, please do pop that down in the comments. The quality overall though is okay. It loses a star for the plastic construction and the slightly dodgy mechanism, but overall the model was reasonably nicely put together. As I say, the decoration was very accurate. Nice heavy metal chassis and sort of running plate, kind of, for want of a better term, pilot I suppose. Yeah, overall not too many complaints on the quality. Value then, that's another difficult one, because I think for $145 this is a little bit expensive. I think I'd give it 3 stars there. But for $49.99, I think this is much, much better. Yes, we've seen more complex and better detailed models out there, but I don't think for that kind of price, given the fact that you've got a decoder as well and lights, yeah, that's rather good value. So I've split down the middle and given it 4-star there. I do suppose it depends on what the kind of price is normally for these. I think it's unusual to get them for as cheap as $49 or £36. But maybe I'm wrong. If you were in the States, please do let me know. Overall then, that is a reasonable score. It's a basic locomotive, don't forget that, of 6.85 out of 10. Let's put that into the rankings then. Oh, there it is, 10th above the A2/2 from Hornby and below the Bachmann Class 20. Now, yes, it feels a little bit preposterous putting this below the Hornby Class A2/2. However, at this price, some of this model's disadvantages are quite reasonable, aren't they? I think at the Hornby A2/2 price, a lot of its downfalls were not, and I think that's the key difference between them. But there we go, those are my thoughts. Let me know if you disagree. Let's get back to the running session. Well, there you have it then, folks. Thank you very, very much for joining me for another review. And that one was a lot of fun. It was very, very interesting to experience a loco that, up until now, I knew absolutely nothing about. And to be honest, given the fact that it's got DCC and that it runs actually quite well and that it's got lights and everything, I can't believe I only paid £36 for this thing. I think that is absolutely marvellous. So if you've got one of these, if you've had experience of them, or if you've just got an opinion based on this review, do let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are. For now though, once again, thank you very, very much for watching, and I will see you with another video very, very soon. Look after yourselves, folks. Cheers, everybody.